Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let's see, I gotta turn this thing around here. Let's see, well, Danny's back here, good.
You're good. You're recording.
Here we go, okay. Technology. Well, a fine good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome to the Mahoning County Board of Elections. Today is September the 7th. It's about 20 minutes past 8. This meeting is called to order. The director, please call the roll.
Mr. Monroe.
Here.
Mrs. Barker. Here. Mr. Wasko.
Here.
Mr. Beatrice.
Here.
And folks, before we begin, if we could just take a moment to reflect on our many blessings of liberty and the role that free and fair elections play in keeping our country strong. If everyone would rise and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, has everyone recovered from the Canfield Fair, I think?
No, not yet.
I didn't go for the first time in 12 years. It felt great.
Under Chairman's report, we're going to first of all consider persons who have filed paperwork to be a write-in candidate for the November 2021 general election. Joyce, do we have a list of those? Or?
Did you do somewhere in this?
Look at this report. There it is.
Yeah, it is. It looks like this. I gave myself one.
Here, we can share.
Am I looking at the right piece of paper here?
This one.
Yeah. I understand that Mr. Ogden from Craig Beach had also filed.
He did, Mark. I
Okay, I see.
didn't put him on that
Okay,
list.
he's not on this list,
No.
okay. Okay, so these are the persons that have filed, but there was also, Jason Ogden from Craig Beach has filed an application to be a write-in candidate. And we note that he had already filed petitions to be a candidate, and so therefore he would be ineligible to run as a write-in. So that write-in request should be rejected.
One more.
Turning flashlight
Yes.
on.
So if there could be a motion that the declaration of candidacy to be a write-in candidate for Mr. Jason Ogden, is there a motion that his request be denied?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? The director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe.
Yes.
Mrs. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Wasko.
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice.
Yes.
And then we've got a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 other candidates. The persons who want to be a candidate as a write-in, those declarations appear to be correct and proper. And is there a motion that those persons be certified as potential write-in candidates for the fall election?
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Beatrice.
Do all of the candidates for the city of Youngstown meet the residency requirement?
Yes.
They all do. Okay.
Okay, anything else?
Well, I'll make a motion to accept the
There's a motion, there's a second that the remaining write-in candidates be approved. Discussion, director call the roll.
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Mrs. Barger? Yes. Mr. Wasko?
Yes.
Yes.
Was that second by Mr. Peters? Mr. Wassman? Yes.
Motion carries. Very good. Next item on the agenda, we're going to hear a protest regarding a liquor option that was filed in Canfield Township Precinct 1. That was a petition that we certified at our last meeting. A protest has been filed, or an objection has been filed by Marie Cartwright. She's here today, representing herself. I note that the petitioner is not here. Danny, could you speak to the efforts that were made to notify the petitioner about this meeting?
I had 3 phone numbers for him. One was out of service and the other 2 were not his phone number. I then followed up by sending out a registered letter informing him of the meeting to both Main Street and Leffingwell Road. And I have not heard from him.
Very good, thank you. With that, I'd like to give Marie Cartwright the opportunity to speak to the board and let us know what your objection is. Why are you protesting the petition?
Well, there's numerous reasons why I am.
Please state your name and
Oh,
address.
Marie Izzo Cartwright, 6129 Leffingwell Road, Canfield, Ohio.
Thank you.
And there are numerous reasons why I'm objecting. One of them is exactly what Danny said, is trying to contact him at either address. He does not live at either of those addresses. 6021 Leffingwell Road is a vacant home and has been since the spring of 2021. He doesn't own the property. He has gone out for a petition to make that property wet. And the way it's stated on the petition for Leffingwell 6021, that currently includes 9.91 acres of property. That property is being replatted to be sold. It will be replatted to 5 acres. So if indeed the way it is currently listed at 6021 Leffingwell Road as of the date of that petition, that would wet the 9.91 acres, which is not accurate. That property is currently owned by a trust. Mr. Michael O'Brien is the person who is in charge of selling that property. He has told us that it will only be 5 acres. It will not be the 9.1 acres. There has not been a transfer of land at this time. Additionally, if you look at the address on his petitions, it is 369 East Main Street, Canfield, Ohio, which is in the city. That property burned down on July 8th of 2020. That home was demolished just recently. There was a barn there that he tried to live in. However, the city of Canfield zoned it that he couldn't because it did not meet their code. He told one of the councilmen in the city that he was living on Broad Street in Canfield. He told Canfield Township zoning inspector he was living in Poland. And then he files his petitions there. He told Michael O'Brien recently that he's been living at Ironwood, at the Hampton Inn on Ironwood. So we really don't know where this gentleman lives currently. So filing petitions with a permanent resident as 369 East Main Street when there really isn't a way he could be living there, I believe is inappropriate and doesn't meet your standard of permanent address. Additionally, that property is only zoned currently for agricultural residential by the township. He filed for a D1, a D2, a D3, and a D5. Those are all liquor options that are liquor permits that are for a restaurant, a food purveyor, or a hotel, none of which are permitted on that piece of property.
In addition to that, he filed for an A2. A2 is for the purpose of the manufacture of wine, 60% of which the grapes or whatever he's going to produce have to be produced on that property. There is not one single grapevine on that property. And he's filing currently for it on property he doesn't even own. So this has to go through a whole process. The land has to be transferred, it has to be replatted, he has to go before zoning. And then even the licenses he's applying for aren't even acceptable for that property. Even if it were to be zoned for agricultural, they still wouldn't be able to permit a hotel, a restaurant, or a food purveyorship there. So for all of those reasons, I really don't believe that this should be permitted to be on the ballot. Most importantly is his address. That is not his permanent residency, which is stated on his petition, which I think is one of the main qualifications when any of us solicit for a petition in this county. And for us not to recognize that, I think would be totally inappropriate and unfair to every other person who is a candidate or a solicitor for any other option throughout the county. And there are, I've also supplied you with exhibits that show all of that, and also ORC as it refers to all of those liquor options.
Yeah. You say he does not own the property on Leffingwell Road. Do we have any clues? Is he trying to buy the property?
That is my understanding, he is. But that transfer has not taken place, and it has not been replatted to the 5 acres yet.
And regarding his home on, or his former home on Broad Street, he owns
East
that
Main-
property?
East Main Street.
I'm sorry, East Main Street.
Yes, he does, which is totally vacant right now. If you went there, there is not a structure there. The barn was removed on the 19th. The house was to be demolished on August the 20th. However, it was actually done on the 23rd of August.
Yeah. Although I would just note, as an election matter, that could be the property that he intends to return to. He possibly might have plans to rebuild the house perhaps, or?
He's in conversation with the city to sell that property to another business.
Thank
And
you.
there are minutes of that for Canfield City.
Thank you, Marie. Now, this is actually kind of awkward for us because the person who filed the petition is not here. Makes it very difficult for us to ask questions of him and find out, or give him a chance to defend the petition he filed. Also joining us today is Sharon Hackett from the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor's office is our legal counsel, and because this does involve a liquor option, petitions, there are certain legalities required. I would like to suggest that we consider going into executive session for a few minutes with our counsel, just to discuss some of the issues that have been brought before us.
I make a motion to go in executive session.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second that we go into executive session for the purpose of consulting with our legal counsel. Any discussion? Director, call the roll.
Mr. Monroe.
Yes.
Mrs. Barger.
Yes.
Mr. Washington.
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice.
Yes.
And executive session.
So moved.
I'll second.
Director, call the roll.
Mr. Monroe.
Yes.
Mrs. Barger.
Yes.
Mr. Washington.
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice.
Yes.
Well, folks, we are back on the record, and we've done some additional checking. For example, we made a request with the Department of Liquor Control to confirm whether or not the petitioner has an application on file with the Department of Liquor Control, or is he a current permit holder? And it appears that he is not. That is one of the requirements, or that is one of the possible requirements to file a liquor option petition, or you can also be a designated agent. In this case, it appears that he does not have an application on file with the Department of Liquor Control. He is not a current permit holder, And we've got nothing to indicate that he is that he is the designated agent for somebody looking to file a permit. So, on that basis, I think that,
Well, those are fatal flaws.
I move we disqualify the petition.
I think that Ms. Cartwright's protest is well-founded. There's a motion that the petition be disqualified.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Director, call the roll.
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Mrs. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Wasko?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Speech was done after a motion. Was that your motion?
Yes. I'd also move that we refer this case to the sheriff's department for investigation on any kind of election fraud.
Any kind of election fraud?
Well, if someone, it gives to a government body a fraudulent piece of paper, in my opinion, that's a crime. I think we should at least get it looked at.
And what specifically is the fraud you're referring to?
If you lie to a public agency, it is a crime to lie under oath to a public agency. I don't know what the crime would be, but I can tell you that it's a crime.
Well, what's the lie?
Well, one, his address.
You know, in my experience, address is a very hard thing to prove. It's where you're gonna return to after you've been gone. He may be going to build a house on that property. That would be tough to justify or to, you know, say it was fraud, because.
Well, what I don't like is, we certified it, but for the diligence of a citizen, none of these issues would have come to us. And all I'm saying is,
That's true.
these issues, you know, we give a cursory look, but we should let people know that this isn't something they should do cavalierly, on a cavalier basis.
If I may, please, and this may help you, but the regular meeting of Canfield City Council, July 7th at 2021, there was a report filed by Mr. Nacarado, who is apparently the chair for the design review. It says, quote, "The biggest thing was a request for the demolition of a house at 369 East Main, which is the house that caught fire on the corner of Hillside and East Main. Upon further review, if the house goes down, we also have to, the city is requiring the outbuilding, which is the barn, will also have to come down. We made a motion and passed a motion requesting that the house come down, but giving us 30 days so that Mr. McLean can either come in with designs and permits for a new home to be built on the property, or to remove the barn and save the barn. That will come in front of the city at this point to figure it out. We did pass the last one, which was a request that he removes the barn and move it to the property, to his property. As a side note, I would like the citizens to know the design review is very concerned about losing such a beautiful barn. And I can give you a copy of this, which pretty much states that he was not going to rebuild on that site, that he was moving, and he has moved the barn to another site, which is the 6021 site.
Okay. I don't think this rises to the level where we should ask the sheriff to investigate. I think in fact the board could have done a better job in reviewing these petitions before they came to us. For example, the guide to local liquor options suggests that the board fax or email a copy of the front side of one of the part petitions to the Division of Liquor Control for verification that the petitioner is an applicant or a permit holder. Had we done that ourselves, as has been suggested in the local liquor option guide, we would have determined this ourselves that there was a problem.
All I'm saying, Mark, is hawks on us for putting together and approving a petition that should not have been approved. Now, our staff either needs to step up its game, or someone's wool was pulled over their eyes. One of those two things happened.
In defense of our staff, we had a gentleman who was here, Dante Lewis, who did our liquor options. He decided to leave. He was in the process, Danny did liquor auctions before, but many years ago. We had someone as a backup for liquor auctions, but the laws changed so rapidly on liquor auctions. Dante was not here to follow through on that because he was in the process of getting another job and going to another county. So, it is an error on our part, but, I would stand behind the staff saying that we will do it in the following from now on. But, it was something that we did not know had to be done at this point, because the liquor laws do change so rapidly.
Yes, they do.
Well, I understand that, but the public entrusts us with making sure these things are done correctly. This was not done correctly, we did not catch it, and if it wasn't for a citizen bringing it to us, this would have gone on to the ballot
Correct.
wrongly.
Correct,
And it's, we're to catch it.
correct.
So Marie,
Could I add
we are here today to say thank you, Marie, for bringing it to our attention. Now, there is a motion on the table. Is there a second? If not, we will move on.
That motion you were talking about the legal,
Attorney.
the legality,
I'm sure.
To investigate what
the
happened.
sheriff aspect.
Yes.
Okay. That motion failed with the second. All right.
Right here?
Yes.
Also joining us today is Mr. Pete Bokish.
Patrick.
I'm sorry, Patrick.
Yes, sir.
Patrick, would you come forward, please?
State your name and address for the record.
My name is Patrick Bokish, 255 Rosemont, Austin, Ohio, 44515.
The floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, fellow board members and directors. I'm here in regards to the rejection of my petition to join the November ballot for the Austintown Board of Education. My petition was rejected on a few bases. Chief among them was the fact that I had a number of people that printed their name on my petition instead of signing it in cursive. The main reason why they did this, first and foremost, is my first time ever running for office. When I went to one of them and asked them to sign my petition, they asked me at that time, my signature is illegible, no one can read it, is it okay if I print it? At which time I didn't know the answer, so I consulted the packet that was given to me when I picked up those petition papers. Page 24, Rules Governing Petitions from the 2021 Ohio Candidate Requirement Guide reads, subsection 4, pertinent part, generally signing or affixing a signature to a petition requires a person's written cursive style legal mark written in that person's own hand unless the elector does not use cursive style mark during the course of their regular business or legal affairs. When I read that, it was to my understanding that, and I asked them, how do you normally write your name? And he said, well, I usually print my name. A lot of these guys are teachers. I usually just print my name because I can't, the kids won't be able to read my signature. Parents, same thing. The only time I ever sign my name is for a legal document, check, something along those lines. So I said, okay, it seems like there's allowance here in that rule for that. So, I told them, just write your name how you write your name normally. And more than 6 did that. However, I was able to track down 6 of those individuals to have them sign affidavits stating what I just said, the reasons why they signed their names in such a way, or printed their names in such a way. So I'm asking the board to please give my petition a second review so that it may be included on the November ballot.
Did he have enough signatures other than that, George?
I was one short.
Well, that's another problem.
Oh, I had enough signatures, yes.
Oh, no, he
I filed
printed.
34,
I see.
and I believe 7 or 8 of them were printed.
You were one short after they removed.
That's correct, yes, sir.
So here's what I want to say to that. My philosophy is the more people that vote, the more people that participate in running for office, the better it is for the community. That's my personal, that's what I bring, that's my philosophy. As you were talking, I just remembered now my youngest going through grade school, they don't even teach cursive writing anymore. I mean, when my son signs his name, it's like printed. And so I'm thinking that sounds pretty logical to me. I mean, they don't even teach cursive writing anymore.
Sure.
Can I see the affidavits?
Yeah, I'm looking through them right now.
Oh, he provided affidavits.
I have the hard copies here, so I'll read them instead.
Now, what I would prefer to have seen in this case would be each person that printed their signature, if they could have provided, say, a check, a canceled check, or some other document that shows that they normally sign an official document with the printed signature.
So Phil, along those lines, they said they do sign with their name because it's a check, but in the course of their normal business life, i.e. school or work, they typically print their name. They always sign their legal documents. But-
Voter registration is a legal
This is a
document.
legal document.
Voter registration.
I understand, but the way the rule reads, where it says business or legal affairs, in the course of their normal business affairs, they print their names, which is why they felt it was okay to do so on the petition, and why I felt it was okay for them to do so on the petition. I just, the rule is a little vague in that regard.
Can I ask you a question? Is Nathaniel Armstrong a teacher?
He's employed by the school, he's actually employed by the city as well. But he does have, some capacity at the school.
I also know these are not really affidavits, they're simply statements, they're not notarized. And I also note that they're actually signed.
Correct. I asked if they signed because the reason why they were disqualified was because they weren't signatures. So I asked them to sign them at the bottom and include their address as well. And in regards to the, not notarized, I was told just have them sign a piece of paper and a statement stating.
Well, this appears to be how this person would normally sign their signature. It's a cursive signature, it's not a printed signature.
I understand that. I asked them to put their cursive style signature on it, since that was the entire reason why they were disqualified in the first place. However, that is not how they normally sign their name in the course of their everyday life,
Well, it's how they normally signed it here, it's cursive.
because I requested them to do so.
Mark, it does say on every one of these. I printed my name and signing it in cursive because that is how I typically write my name during the course of my everyday life, both at work and at home. They all use that language, and according to that guide, if it says business or legal, that it's good.
I see the petition.
Petitions are right here.
I mean, this person's obviously a teacher, because he goes, I printed my name as I normally would because I do not usually use cursive because we do not use it anymore. Well, that's a lot of truth to that.
Well then why did he sign that document with his cursive signature?
I think he gave you a
Oh, I'm
reason.
sorry?
When the traffic and family requires to have an affidavit and the person to come in and order the affidavit.
Sure, and these aren't even affidavits.
That's the affidavit.
Well, were you told by someone here you didn't have to have affidavits?
I was under my understanding when I spoke, not to throw you under the bus or anything, but when I spoke with Danielle, and she said, have them, speak with them and see if they could sign a statement stating that there was actually their signature or their intention to endorse my petition.
Danielle, did you tell him he didn't have to have affidavits?
I didn't tell him he didn't have to, no.
What did you tell him he had to?
I just told him if you can I even told Patrick, if you could have just one person come with you.
That I was unable to do.
Just-
It's-
yeah.
A lot of these guys are teachers, school just started and we couldn't take off.
Sharon,
work.
can I'm not going, Mark, we have Sharon weighing on this?
Here, I want to, I didn't finish looking at these statements. I note that all of these statements, which are not affidavits, they're all signed in cursive. This is, I would have to conclude, this is how these persons would normally sign a legal document.
Except if you read what they wrote.
A legal document, yes, but this rule provides for legal or business affairs.
Which
keyword
part are
or.
you referring to? Which one?
Rules governing petitions, page 24, if you like, I can provide it.
No, we have it right here.
Okay.
Well, then it would have been helpful to bring in some document that they might have signed in the course of a business affair that was printed and not cursive. Like a check, for example, or,
Yes, I understand. I mean, checks are something that they would sign anyway because it is their signature on a check. I mean, you have to sign a check. I've never heard of anyone printing their name on a check. However,
right.
that's just one instance of a business affair. Their business affairs being in the course of their employment as teachers. They don't print, they don't sign their names.
Okay.
You should my hand raised.
The rule seems to be pretty clear that a person is required to use their cursive style legal mark written in the person's own hand, unless the elector does not use cursive style writing during the course of their regular business affairs. These persons apparently all do use cursive during the course of their regular
I would
business
have to
affairs.
disagree, sir.
Well, the documents that you provided show cursive signatures.
You're right, but it says unless the elector does not use cursive style, not can't use. It's not that they can't sign their name. That's not a question. They can sign their name in cursive style, but they don't use cursive style during the course of their everyday affairs.
Mark, he's brought us in documents, okay, where these people are saying that in the normal course of their business, they don't use cursive, and then you're criticizing them for saying, well, they use cursive when they signed it. But they're telling you they don't use cursive in the normal course of their business. I think that's sufficient enough.
Look, there's a well-founded rule now that petitions are to be signed by cursive handwriting unless the person normally does not use cursive. For example, if you pull out their registration card and you see that they actually printed their name, they didn't sign their name, that would be an example where, I mean, some people don't use cursive. They print all the time.
That's true.
And if we look at the voter registration record, we would see that they printed their name. They didn't sign their printed name.
When you, in fairness, when you fill out your voter registration, it says sign here.
And some people sign in print. Some people don't use cursive at all. And that person clearly could print their name as they normally do on a petition. But if
Could they have, yes, but because the rule states that they may, if they, during the course of their normal business affairs, do not sign their name regularly, that they may affix their name to the petition in the way that they normally do.
It doesn't say may.
It just says unless the elector does not use a cursive style mark, not cannot use, does not use.
Does not use, correct.
Inferring that they may be able to use that kind of mark, however, they do not use that kind of mark during the course of their everyday business.
And it says that in every one of those letters. It's exactly what it says in every one of those letters.
But
Sharon, you're
when we're
shaking.
comparing
Mark,
signatures, aren't we supposed to be comparing signatures to the signatures we have on file?
Yes.
Yes.
So shouldn't the person be instructed to sign the petition as they would if they were voting?
Yes, except the person whose signature we contest can come into the Board of Elections afterwards and say, that is my signature.
But they didn't come into the board, did they?
They signed letters.
They didn't come in, they didn't provide an affidavit, and there's no evidence that they normally use a printed signature during the course of their regular business affairs.
It says in the letters.
But they didn't, but they signed them all in cursive.
What does that mean?
It means that's how That's how they apparently typically would sign.
And
It is not, because I instructed them to sign their names in cursive at the bottom of those letters.
I think you gave them bad advice.
I think this rule is unclear. I think this rule should be amended to say, person must write their name, affix it to the document, or to affix it to the petition in the way it appears on their driver's license or their voting record, not how they normally do it in their everyday life. I think it gives a little too much leeway and opens the door for user error.
Is there a motion?
I move that we certify his petitions.
I second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I want to say a couple things.
Yes.
We should encourage people in this community to be active in their community. A community is enriched by more people participating in the process, not less. He has gone out of his way to bring us letters of these people saying exactly what the rule there says. He was not instructed by our staff to provide affidavits. Okay? And since he wasn't instructed to provide affidavits, he did what our staff exactly told him to do. And he's done it. I mean, if we were in a court of law, we would not win this one.
Dave, I disagree. Our number one responsibility is to the law. We are, of course, we encourage citizen participation in the voting process. Absolutely. It's good for the county, it's good for the country. But as I've often said, our role, we're like the umpires in a baseball game. We don't make the rules, we enforce the rules. You know, if you're running against an opponent, there's the the Steelers and the Browns. You might think that a rule is not fair and that the Browns need to get a little break. Well, the guys who are opposing you, they don't think so. They think that the rules should be followed. They followed the rules. They think you should follow the rules also.
I believe I did, according to the rule that was given to me by this Board of Elections.
May I be recognized, Mr. Chair?
I don't agree. Mr. Beatrice.
In every referee game that I see now, they have a referee review where they'll go in and relook at what they did.
Which is what we're doing.
And I think what we did was that he corrected what we found to be in a flaw. Now, if it says they could print in their normal daily business, and our petition guide says either their signature or how they use it in their normal business, I think he's fulfilled his obligation.
Hey, Mark, can I say something? Just to clarify.
Mr. McCabe.
Originally, it wasn't Danny or me involved with this. It was another employee, Joe Downey, that originally gave you advice. And Danny and me came in at the end of this. And we told him, because of the time, get some statements that the board has reconsidered in the past. But second, I think the intent of the law is they need to be signed because the court has to determine they're actually a real person who lives where they are. And that signature in the past is what we've done. I think those letters state that they do live where they live. They did sign that petition. And we have in the past used letters to accept petitions, Jim trafficking. So there's precedent for this board to accept this.
Although the state of the law does change over the course of the overtime. Sharon, would you like to weigh in on this? Did you offer us any advice at all?
Well, I would like to say that it is a petitioner's responsibility to know what the law is and what the law requires. It's not any board members. So, any reliance on what a board member says or does absolutely is completely irrelevant.
I don't think that was.
First of all.
In this case.
And second of all, I'm assuming that the signatures on the petitions printed, the printed names on the petitions didn't match the voter registration records where the signature was probably
That's correct.
signed.
That's correct.
And so your board employees in checking those signatures have no way of knowing that they are the same. Legally speaking, what has been presented to you really is not evidence, if you're looking at it strictly in a legal sense. They're not affidavits, they're not the people here saying, yes, that was my signature. In other proceedings that we've had here, we've required somebody to come in and give evidence, either orally or by affidavit. And I'm not saying that anything was done wrong here at all, but and that being said, you know, I don't like to give legal advice in an open meeting here, and I should have left after the first but
We're glad you're still here, Sharon.
if you're looking at it from a strictly legal point, my, opinion to you is that,
Yeah.
it's in your hands.
Policy of election petition.
I am puzzled by one thing. Now, Patrick, you seem to be very familiar with the candidate guide. Now, did you review the candidate guide before you circulated the petition or afterward?
Both. I didn't remember every single aspect of the candidate guide as I was circulating, or when I was circulating the petition, which is why I referred to it when the first person that asked me, hey, do I have to sign my name? It's illegible normally. You can't really tell like what my name is for the person who's checking these names. Wasn't aware that they used the address and then the voter registration for that. And so I consulted the rules, and it said, under number 4, what provided, and that's why I.
And of course, the advice is that the petition requires a person's written cursive style legal mark. That is the requirement.
And it continues
Yes, it does.
afterwards.
And again, if we saw that, for example, that if that signer had registered to vote with a printed signature, if that signer had typically signs their checks with a printed signature, then yes, absolutely, those would be accepted. That would make sense. There's a motion on the table. There's been a second. Any other discussion?
I have a discussion question.
Mr. Wasco.
Does he have the opportunity to go out and get a true affidavit that's notarized and bring it back to the board? Is there a time frame that's there? I
Well,
mean,
there is a
because-
time frame because we have to have the ballots printed. They're actually, the wording of the ballots is on the Secretary of State. We're proofing ballots right now. So there is a time frame. We have to have the ballots ready by Chicago, which is 1 month away.
Well,
So,
we're not questioning whether these people actually printed their, I don't question that.
Then what are you questioning?
That these people don't normally use a printed signature in the normal course of business. If you could bring me a check, a canceled
They
check.
said it in their letter, Mark.
In each one of these letters, they said that.
That's what they say, but then they sign with a cursive signature.
Because they were told to.
Which contradicts, that's what they normally do. So, anyway.
They
is
signed in
there-
the cursive signature, sir, if I may, because that is what you have on record. After the fact, I found that out. They did that so that you could actually look at and match it to their address and their name. That is why they did that at my request.
Is there any other discussion? Director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe,
No.
No.
Mr. Wasco,
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice.
Yes.
Okay. We'll submit it to Columbus for a decision. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Explain the procedure.
I'm aware of that. Is there something I need to do on that matter, or am I gonna be
No,
contacted?
in the event of a tie vote, what happens is that the two sides submit basically a report to Columbus to the Secretary of State, who is charged with the responsibility of breaking or deciding tie votes at the Board of Elections.
When do-
I don't think so.
I think that's on employee issues.
Yeah,
That's not important.
or if you're trying to hire a deputy director or something. Or maybe it's not the right director.
Okay.
May I ask when that takes place? Do you know when that is?
We'll send a letter immediately. I'll actually contact the Secretary
It
of State, their legal
happens, it happens
department.
pretty quickly. Both,
Yeah.
both sides, the yay side and the nay side have to draft
Sure.
basically a letter explaining our position, why we took the vote we did, and the Secretary of State then will issue a decision.
Okay. Will I be notified of that
Yes,
decision?
oh, absolutely.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Was there another one, Joyce?
Yes, we found signatures for Ms. Young.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and-
Do we have,
Yeah, that should be it right there.
okay. At our last meeting, we invalidated signatures for Catherine Young, who was a candidate for the office of mayor in the city of Canfield. At the time, it appeared that she was short one signature. And following that meeting, we did some more checking. Danny, you want to explain what happened?
Well, right after the meeting, I go over all the petitions that have not been certified. When I counted Mrs. Young, she did have enough signatures, verified signatures. Yeah.
Very good. Is there a motion to certify Catherine Young as a candidate for the office of mayor in the city of Canfield?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Discussion?
Yes. So let me see if I understand this.
Go ahead.
On two different petitions, we made mistakes. Is that my understanding of what we did collectively as a board?
I don't know. Check petition, no idea these notes. I require people to put their initials on petitions when they check them. This one went, so who's that?
Sue.
Sue Fuller.
Yeah.
Yes, she obviously, she doesn't check petitions often, but we had so many petitions coming in for trustee and for the different things. We did make a mistake on the count of that one, yes.
Hey, we have to do better.
We do have to do better. That's why I want to put a policy in effect for petitions with the board,
And we'll get
which I
to-
drafted.
And we'll get to that in just a minute.
It's a draft. Yes.
Any other discussion? The director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Ms. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
We've got too
We
much,
do have a few other things to do here.
we've got too much paper on this desk here.
Right.
Let's see. Where are we
My report.
at? I think that,
Yeah, the fair petition.
that concludes my business. Director's report, Joyce.
So, since reviewing the petitions and having these issues with petitions that we should not have had, and I drafted a policy on election petitions. In this policy, it covers all the different things that I read through, that the Secretary of State requires that we're supposed to do, and how we're supposed to handle petitions. I would like the board to adopt this policy because it will clarify things for the staff, clarify things for the candidates. I think this policy should be handed out with the packet that we hand out to the prospective candidates so they know what our policy is, what you will rule on when you something. It has circulator requirements, it has Steiner requirements. It follows all the different issues that we seem to have had with some of these petitions. Reason to invalidate a signature, petition deficiencies, notification of petition is not certified, request of reconsideration, liquor option petitions. It covers a wide variety of the issues that came up during this election. And I would like the board to either adopt it today or review it and adopt it at the next meeting. But it is really something that we have to go forward with to clarify for our staff and for the public where we stand on petitions.
Joyce, I've reviewed this, and I think you've done an excellent job of compiling a lot of.
That was before the Campfield Fair.
Joyce, I wanna also commend you for this. By being a lawyer,
Oh,
this,
no, oh, no.
no, this can be used against us.
It
And
probably
so-
could.
So what I would like to do is see if we can't get the Secretary of State to,
Well, I actually sent it to the prosecutor, and
okay,
they're reviewing.
Okay.
Because that's what the Secretary of State will tell me to do first. Send it to your prosecutor, let your prosecutor,
that's the only thing I would require. That way, someone, if they say, oh, well, I relied on this and this was wrong, but if we have a lawyer or someone saying, no, this is
I really
good.
relied on the laws, basically, to go through this, the laws of the state of Ohio, that we have on the books, where petitions are concerned. So, but I did send it to the prosecutor for review, so maybe we adopt it the next meeting. We're not gonna deal with petitions for a while
Yeah.
until, but it's something I think that we really need to adopt.
Because a reviewing court would say to us, did you have your legal,
Right,
did you have your lawyer look at this and sign off on it?
right.
And then that would absolve us.
Right. Yes, I agree. That's why I sent it to down to.
So we don't have to move on this today.
No, we don't have to move on, but I want you to be aware and that we should
Great
adopt such
job
a
on it.
policy,
No, the good news is we won't be considering petitions again until February?
February, right. So this gives us time, this gives us time to review the policy, gives our staff time to go through the policy and understand, there's certain things that have to be done where our petitions are concerned. Because petitions are our biggest problem, it seems, when we're reviewing them, the staff, reviewing them. It seems to be one of our bigger problems.
Okay. Next, Joyce.
The next one is to pay a moral obligation to Lake Business for the product to purchase a ballot printer and copier system, which is $49.55. During the course of me looking at this system, this is the one that's going to print our ballots in-house. We no longer have to go out for bids. The ballot will cost us 10 cents instead of 10 cents for both sides instead of 22 cents for one side and 22 cents for the next side. So it's going to save us quite a bit of money, but we're also going to be able to do it in-house, which means we will not have a problem with the vendor like we did in the last election. The $49,000 is actually state pricing. When I went out to look at this system, at that time Canon had state pricing. Well, the DRA or whatever it is, they decided to cancel Canon's thing to be able to print themselves because they want us to use state vendors. But this machine usually costs us $72,000. Canon is still going to give us at the state pricing for the $49,000. But we have to go out for, we have to do it as a moral obligation because of the DRA or whatever it was, changing I think it's DAR, changing the system of bidding for ballots. I've talked to the Secretary of State. This is actually considered the same thing as the Ballotar, except it's so much faster. It prints, 40 a minute, Tom, or 60 a minute? 60 a minute. It'll print 60 ballots on both sides in 1 minute. So I can use this for absentees, I can use it for mailing, I can use it for, I'm gonna print the ballots for the precincts. Because actually Chris does our layout and the ballots, we send just the PDF to the vendor.
Right.
So we'll have our own, we'll have our own. I'm actually in that back room, I'm creating a whole mail room, a whole printing room, a whole mail room. So that everything will be self-contained and secure in one place.
And this will also pad the ballots and,
Yes, it will
And the,
staple the ballots and
ballot
make the
stubs.
stubs, yep.
and why is this being done as a moral obligation, not as a,
Because they-
not as a
because-
purchase request? As a purchase
Well, we
order?
went through the purchase order thing, but because they took it off of state pricing. Canon is actually working with another company to give the same amount as the state pricing, but I'm under the gun because, of the election. So, that's why we're going out as a moral.
So you're proposing to use this for this election?
Yes, I am.
That's what the rush is.
That's what the rush is.
Okay, just to be clear.
I make a motion to approve the moral obligation 49550 to Lake Business Products for the purchase of the ballot printing copy system.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I just have one other question about maintenance. Obviously, having this unit in-house, it's gonna be our responsibility, and if it breaks,
Maintenance is free and they're here within 1 day. Which, you know, this will be a better system for us too, like if we run into the problem we did in the primary of 16, when we were running out of certain party ballots.
I
We had to-
remember.
Yeah, we were using every machine we had, every ballot jar we had to call the vendor, you know, we had to run them out to the precinct. This way I can print so fast and get them out ourselves, instead of having to, you know, go through all that grief that we went through.
And if we didn't have a local vendor at that election, we would have.
We would have been in serious trouble.
Yeah.
If we would have used, the one we used in Cleveland, we would have
Yeah.
been in big trouble. We were lucky we had one down the street, you know, so, but that also cost us overtime and cost us a little bit of money to do that, so
and
this
where
is.
where will the mailroom be, Joyce?
I'm actually, that back room where, we have that big long board table, it's in the very back, where by Susie's office, right
Oh.
across from,
You know, our backup
Yeah.
boardroom.
a backup boardroom. Well, they're creating me a wall and putting security in there with cameras and everything, so that I'm just going to have one mailroom, one specific mailroom.
Okay. There's a motion, there's a second. Any other discussion? The director will call the roll?
Mr. Monroe,
Yes.
Mrs. Barger,
Yes.
Mr. Wasco.
Yes?
Mr. Beatrice. And I need to have a motion to hire the necessary poll workers for the election next Thursday.
I'm contemplating my vote here, just.
Oh, I'm sorry, did you vote? I'm
No,
sorry.
we didn't.
Yes.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to authorize the director to hire the necessary help and staff for the November 2, 2021 general election?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Are we expecting about the same?
Well, it'll be a little
More or less.
bigger than the last election
Okay.
because it was we did not have a full county election, so there'll be, you know, more poll workers, more things to do.
Director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe,
Yes.
Mrs. Barger,
Yes.
Mr. Wasco,
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice.
Yes.
And then a training schedule. I think we've got a
You have a copy of the schedule
schedule
somewhere.
that you provided us.
Yes, yes.
That one, yes. Got it. Is there a motion to approve the training schedule, the poll worker training schedule as provided by the director?
I'll make a motion to approve the training schedule, which is
Second.
just the dates, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Second.
Any discussion? Director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe,
Yes.
Mrs. Barger,
Yes.
Mr. Wasco,
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice.
Yes.
Anything else, Joyce?
Well, there is one more thing. I'm contemplating buying a couple of the portable voting location stands. They're like a tent that, in case the location would go down, then we would not be able to use it, or we would have to move outside for some reason, you know, or evacuate. We should have some portable polling locations able to set up to be able to not move the location per se, but let the voters, you know, move to maybe another area in that, near that location, so that we still keep the polls open and the location open. They used it a lot in California this last time, and a lot in, some other areas. And there's a company that's proposing it, you know, that they sell the tents, they sell the generator, they, you know, sell all that. So I'm looking into that, to see if that would work for us. It's probably something that will be in the future, but I just want you to be aware that it is something that we should probably take into consideration, you know, in coming up.
Maybe for the next presidential?
Or the next governors, one or the other. But that is down the line.
Anything else?
That's it for me.
Is there any unfinished business to consider? Any new business to consider? I have a piece of new business. It was this past April. It was 30 years ago this past April that I first joined the Board of Elections.
Wow.
Wow,
April 1991. It might have been March.
back in March.
When did you start, Joyce?
Remember, I started. I don't
Okay, guys, it was
remember.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
April, March.
I started in December of '88, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I started December of '88, yeah.
Okay. And,
'87, oh, I don't know.
and early this year, I had considered not seeking another term on the board. But at the time, Tracy Winbush had decided to resign her position on the board to be a candidate for mayor. And I thought it would be inappropriate for me to retire at that time. I wanted to give our new board member a chance to get her feet wet.
Thanks, Mark.
Also, this September is also my birthday month. And I thought this would be a good time to announce my formal retirement from the Board of Elections, effective at the end of this month, September the 30th. And, well, it's been a long time coming.
A long time, we've been together a long
But,
time.
but with that, I would suggest that a motion would be in order to appoint Sandy Barger as the new chairman of the board effective October 1, just so there's no confusion about who holds the gavel at the beginning of the next meeting. That would be my recommendation. And, you know, it's customary that members of the same party nominate the chairman, so I will make the motion that Sandy Barger be appointed as the new chairman of the board effective October 1. And I would ask for a second.
I don't know, am I able to do that? Since it's me?
Let me just say something.
Sure, go ahead.
I have gotten to know Sandy. I feel she is a very competent, good person, but I don't believe, being here for 3 months, she should be the chairman of the board. I would prefer that we switch Joyce and make her the assistant director, and then make the Democrat the chairman of the board. And if Joyce doesn't have a problem with that, that's what I would prefer we do. And then we can proceed from there.
Well, what you decide to do at the October meeting is certainly your prerogative. If a board meeting begins and there is no named chairman, there's a procedure for selecting a person to serve as a temporary chairman and to oversee the reorganization of the board at that time.
Well, I think we should wait till then.
That's fine.
I think it's something Tom and I would like to discuss too. Right, Tom?
Yeah.
Something.
Sean is
Sure. Hey, the only advantage of appointing Sandy now is that it just eliminates any confusion at the beginning of the next meeting. That doesn't mean that you can't reorganize at the same meeting.
I like her. I don't want her to in any way think that I'm not saying it as to anything about her or her qualifications. I just think that that's something I want to think about and talk to Joyce and Tom about and go from there.
But regardless of what you do at the beginning of the next meeting, Joyce will still be the director and there needs to be a chairman.
Yeah,
Well, if there's a next meeting, we can reorganize then.
Absent of the chairman, you have the vice chair, which is
Bob,
Bob.
yeah.
Well, under Ohio law, there is no vice chairman, by the way.
Why do you
It's
have-
honorary.
Supposed to be you.
So can I second the motion or not?
You could, but it's gonna require 3 votes.
Oh,
So,
you second it.
I'll second it.
there's a motion, there's a second then, that Sandy Barger be appointed to be board chairman effective October 1. That is the motion. Is there any other discussion? The director call the roll.
I have this.
Well,
I-
Mr. Wasco.
I really would feel more comfortable once I hear from Tom and Joyce on their thoughts and plans on this. This is sort of just thrown up to us
Well,
all of a
again,
sudden. I mean,
Well, you know what, I
again,
think.
the only, this is just so there's somebody who knows who to pick up the gavel at the beginning of the next meeting. That's all it means. It means nothing more than that, Bob.
okay.
Okay?
Yep.
And that gives Tom and I time to talk and think, and we can talk to all of you.
Right.
Right, and we have to get a
It simply
replacement as
means
well.
at the beginning of the meeting, there won't be, you know,
And we can do this.
absolutely,
Right.
yes.
Because we'll have to be organized.
Yes.
Because there will be a new board member also.
Right.
So there will have to be a reorganization.
So
Someone,
do you-
you're right, somebody has to pick up the.
Do you feel better now, Dave?
No.
There's a motion, there's a second. Director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe,
Yes.
Ms. Barger,
Yes.
Mr. Wasco.
Yes.
Mr. Dietrich.
No.
Motion carries. Any other new business to consider? Any board communications to report?
None that you have not addressed, Mr.
Anything for the good of the order? Any public comment this morning?
I want to go to closing.
I do have a question about signatures. I have no idea if my signature on my voter registration card matches my signature anymore. So
None of
how,
us do.
I mean, how do you determine
You can look
for
at your
sure that the
signature.
signature is correct?
You can look at your signature, all signatures do change, we are not handwriting experts, but there are certain things that don't change, like how you make an A, you know, if your name is Ann.
Oh, I don't know, I think I'm pretty much
My signature changes every time, but the way, you know, the way you sign it, you know, we can decide that, you know, older people, you know, they sometimes are more jagged, at least they sign in the cursive that we can
And there
sort
are
of
people
determine.
who get to the point where they can no longer
Right.
sign their signature.
Right.
So
But
then
those
what do you?
electronic poll books
See,
have
we
no
have-
concept with the signature.
And from the electronic poll books, whoever signs the electronic poll books, we update those signatures with the file each and every time.
I'll tell you
So-
what, those signatures
Well,
are
sometimes they
horrible.
don't, they don't, but they match the next time you go to vote with the electronic signature. You know, so we keep the regular registration on file, but we also update with the poll books too. So, with the cursive, it's not as bad, you know.
But he is correct in saying that children are not learning cursive,
No, they're not.
so I don't know what you're going to be doing.
Well, they'll sign their registrations in print. That's what they'll
In
do
print
when they,
format.
when they're old enough to register vote.
But the chances are they would be signing checks and everything else in
Probably,
that way.
probably.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
The other question I have is, if he had been given an opportunity to take and say, have one of those signatures notarized and bring it back maybe today or the next day, would you have then considered his petition as being
The
valid?
affidavit was the key. That's the key with the law, the affidavit.
Okay,
Yeah, that would.
so you could not give him that extra day or two
Well,
to
we're
verify?
gonna review, I think, it is,
No, we've already voted.
oh, we voted on, I don't remember.
That's what I asked for, but
Yeah.
it seemed like.
It's
that wasn't
going
the
to
case.
this, it's being referred to the Secretary of State for
We're
the
going to
determination.
ask the lawyer at the Secretary of State's law office.
Okay, it just seems like he made so much effort and he was correct in the wording of the petition. And I have heard that so many people file for petitions online. I think it's going to get more and more complicated as time goes on, that people understand exactly what they're doing.
That's the problem with getting a petition offline, you don't get the candidate. He did come in here and get his petition. He got the candidate's handbook. That's the problem, but that is a problem that people have getting their petitions online. They don't exactly know how to fill out the petition. They don't exactly know, you know, unless they delve into it, you know, clearly what the petition requires. The petitions basically, they'll say it right on the petition what they have, the requirements.
The handbook instructions were very vague.
Right. Well, that's why I want to get the petition policy in line. Because if we give the policy out, that explains everything that the board will rule on and how they will rule, you know, on a certain thing.
Anything else?
One thing,
Mr. McCabe.
Yeah, thank you for your 30 years here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks for your mentorship over the years, and you've done a great job. Thank you for your listener. Appreciate everything you've done.
Put you on
We're all listening. Yeah. We're
Hey, Mark.
party for you.
I just want to say one thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is longer than I've been alive.
Sure, would you say that again, please?
That is longer than I've been alive.
One
more time?
Wow.
Now,
How do you feel?
now, I have one final thing to say before we adjourn, and that is, well, a fine good morning, everyone. It's been a pleasure serving at the Board of Elections. Is there a motion to adjourn?
That's so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director, call the roll.
Mr. Monroe.
Yes.
Mrs. Barton.
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe.
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice.
Yes.
Next meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Next meeting is set for Tuesday, October 5th at 8 a.m. We are adjourned.
Thank you.